How's it going, everyone? Mountainspyder here, bringing you another top 10. So today is March top 10 2021. These are my favorite decks this past month and the decks that have been performing well for me. I basically gathered this list from, like I said, the decks that work well for me, as well as listened to a few comments from my Discord and from YouTube comments. So let's see what theme decks would be good to pick up in Pokemon TCG Online. Starting us off at number 10 is Leaf Charge. This is an old-time favorite of mine. It's a super fun deck to play, and if you get a good start, it's great. Now, it's got a decent typing in the sense that it runs electric as well as grass, so it covers quite a few bases. So the typing's alright, and you're kind of able to shift into either direction that you need to go. This deck loves going second. As I said before, if you get a Manectric out on your turn 1 when you're going second, you can place it down immediately without having to evolve it, which is fantastic. This deck has an awesome energy game. You're able to quickly attach energies to your Pokemon and quickly and easily stay ahead in the energy game, which is really important, and this deck does it so well. Overall, the damage is pretty good. You've got your decent heavy hitters in the sense of Abomasnow and primarily Sceptile. Sceptile's most likely going to be doing the work for you, and you're able to get a lot of damage down, as for every energy your opponent has attached, you're dealing 20 more damage. So it adds up pretty quickly. Unfortunately, this deck is quite weak to bench sniping, as you do rely on a few support Pokemon like Uranguru. It does rely on evolutions. Like, this deck's not much without Sceptile. You want to get your Abomasnows down. You want to get Manectric down. So you really want to get those evolutions going. If you're able to, this deck is great fun. However, if you're not able to, it can be a very frustrating deck to play. The early game with this deck, if you don't get a good start, it can be very slow. And you really need to be playing aggressive with this deck because it is quite aged, so it doesn't quite hold out to the newer decks. So you do really have to play better with it, and you need that really good start for it to really come online. Alright, that's number 10. Let's take a look at number 9. Moving on to number 9 is Laser Focus. This is an old deck that's been around for quite a while, and it's just reliable. It has a fantastic energy recycling system. You're able to bring back energies from your discard pile really easy. So you're generally ahead in the energy game, which is fantastic. If you're able to get the special energies down on Necrozma, you're dealing about 160 damage. Well, you are dealing 160 damage, which is really good. You're able to knock out most Pokemon, with the exception of like the high HP stage 2s these days. So the damage is pretty decent across the board. The deck actually does run quite a good fetch mechanic as well, that you're able to bring out whatever Pokemon you want and you need. And that's quite nice to see from a theme deck. This deck can play super aggressive. Because you're able to have such a great energy game, you're able to come online pretty early. And you're able to kind of stay there. So you're not spending as many turns just attaching energies. Generally, you're doing something. This deck also does run these the surfboard, which enables you to switch out very easily. So you're able to have quite a good like bench game. You're able to keep your opponent on their toes. You're able to keep your Pokemon alive. And if you kind of dance around a bit, this deck is awesome, and you can pull off some really, really great tricks. One of the biggest issues with this deck is the fact that if you're not able to get your special energy out, it can be a little bit difficult. You really need to get that energy going because you want to be able to swing 460. Now, it's a weakness guard energy, which doesn't actually matter. But the big thing comes in the fact that you need that damage count. Otherwise, Necrozma's only dealing 100 damage, which is not enough. So you really need to get that special energy. And unfortunately, if it's a prize card, it can be quite difficult playing with this deck. So I do suggest that if you have the chance to search your deck, do so thoroughly and make sure you've got the special energies. So, moving on to number 8. Number 8 is actually the old Inteleon deck for me. Now, this deck can be a bit hit and miss, but it works quite well in meta thanks to the abundance of fire type decks. So because that just being a water type deck gives a huge 1-up in the current meta. This deck has a very interesting mechanic in the sense that it restricts your opponent's energies. You're able to bounce energies back to their hands, and you're also able to discard cards from your opponent's hand, which is quite interesting, especially for a theme deck. So it works quite well, and I mean Inteleon has a pretty low energy cost as well, so you're able to get your attacks out fairly easily. So the energy gain for this deck is quite good. Now, you are also able to fetch energies from your deck quite easily. Playing energies is a little bit more difficult. This deck doesn't put down energies faster, which is a bit unfortunate. Well, there's not a lot of energy acceleration in this deck, which is really, really sad, because a bit of energy acceleration in this deck would make it fantastic. And it does kind of lead into the fact that this deck can be a bit unreliable, in the sense that if you're not able to bring out those energies and not able to actually get online quick enough, it can kind of be a bit iffy. You kind of need to get Inteleon. You need to make sure you're getting Inteleon down, and you need to make sure that you protect your Inteleon, because between Inteleon and Dreadnought, and Inteleon tends to do the most. As I said, the damage is kind of average. The deck runs on kind of a more mechanical base, so you kind of need to go for those better plays and outplay your opponent, and kind of go for those gotchas to try and make up for the relatively low damage. Overall though, this deck is still a lot of fun to play. I still quite enjoy jumping into it every now and again, and I tend to have pretty good games with it. Alright, that is number 8. Moving on to number 7. I actually put the new Dreadnought deck down to number 7. I've had a lot of fun with this deck. I really enjoy playing with this deck. I think it's really interesting. I think it's a lot of fun, and I like the approach they took to it. It's got some really good typing. Again, it's a water type deck. It just does so well in the current meta. So just being that is fantastic. The Pokemon tend to be pretty tanky as well. You can usually take a decent hit being at like 140 HP. Between Dreadnought and Samurott, you're able to take a few hits. Samurott has the ability to disrupt your opponent's energies, which is huge, and you can really mess with people if you come on at the right time. It's an interesting mechanic that you don't see a lot, and quite frankly, that's also one of the reasons I did the rank this a bit higher, is that you can make some really good plays and come back quite easily. But again, you need to have those attacks going and you get the Samurott going. And it's kind of awkward if your opponent doesn't have or doesn't need those energies. But if they are building up to like the 3-4 energy attacks, this deck is amazing. It does also retrieve decks when discard pile. Retrieve cards when discard pile quite nicely with Nessa. So you're able to bring back whatever cards you lost right back to your hand, which really does make a difference because it allows you to just carry on going, keep the momentum going, which can make the world of difference. Now, unfortunately, the deck is a little bit slow. It's slow because it has very high energy requirements, and because like your stage 1s and stage 2s, well, Dreadnought is pretty good, but your basics are very average, and your stage 1s are very average, with the exception of Dreadnought. So your early game is going to be a little bit slow, which is problematic because it stops you from playing super aggressive. But if you're able to establish yourself, it's well worth the wait. If you're playing from behind, this deck can be difficult. The deck works well when you're able to basically bully your opponent out of energies and get the upper hand. If you're playing from behind, that can be a little bit more difficult, especially if your opponent is way ahead of you in terms of energy placement. So you've got to play it a little bit carefully. But it's a really great deck. I've enjoyed it, and I'm most certainly happy I picked it up. That is number 7. Let's move on to number 6. Number 6 for today is Unseen Depths. Now, I know this is a little bit low, and it's a little bit low because, quite frankly, like the 1 to 6 for this top 10 was by far the most difficult I've done so far. There are a lot of good decks, and quite frankly, there's not a lot separating the decks. So, the fact that Unseen Depths is down as 6 is unfortunate, and it just goes to show how many good theme decks there are at the moment to actually use and play. And as stale as the meta might feel, there is enough decks. Granted, there are like 5 or 6 decks, but there's those 5 or 6 decks that are working quite well, which is decent to see. So Unseen-Depths is an old-time favorite. It's a fantastic deck. Being a water-type deck, the typing is great. For those of you who don't know, this deck bench snipes like an absolute king with Inteleon. It is so good at shutting down your opponent, and if you're able to trap your opponent into their active Pokemon not being able to do anything, and just bench sniping what they're building up to, this deck is terrifying. It's a really good deck. And as I said, it being in 6th place is not it's not negative towards this deck. This deck is good, and honestly, I would 100% recommend this deck to anyone starting out. You're not going to go wrong with Unseen-Depths. It's so much fun to play as well. It accelerates quite well. It's able to get those energies back from discard pile back onto his Pokemon, so it works relatively well. It's got some decent draw. It's got enough draw that it functions. Generally, the energy costs are quite low. Considering you got Inteleon, who's attacking for 1 energy, it's terrifying. So, energy-wise, this deck is sorted, and you don't have to worry too much about your energy game. Now, the only thing with this deck is, you kind of want to get Inteleon out. If you get a turn 3 Inteleon, generally, you're going to win the game. Inteleon's that great, because you just completely shut down your opponent's bench. So if you're able to play super aggressive and get that turn 3 Inteleon, you're really sitting in a really, really good spot. It can be a little bit slow unless you're able to get Ambipom out. Ambipom is really great for draw, and just like that early game hitting for 120. So you kind of want to get Ambipom going as soon as possible. But quite frankly, as long as you get Inteleon online, that's kind of all you have to worry about. Once again, I love this deck. I'm really sad to see it at 6th place. And I know a lot of people are going to be unhappy with that. I cannot stress enough that this is a great deck. You will not be disappointed picking it up. Alright, now let's move to the top 5. A lot of people are going to be unhappy with me in the top 5, most likely. And I really want to know why. Let me know in the comments down below what you would do your top 5 decks, because this was tough. I literally delayed this video by a week because I couldn't make up my mind. And I'm still very much on the fence with it. So, in 5th place, I'm putting Towering Heights. This deck is crazy good, and people always underestimate it. It is so aggressive. So aggressive. And the fact that it's weak to grass is amazing, because nobody's playing grass, because there is so much fire. So the fact that it's weak to grass, honestly, it may as well not even have a weakness, because 99% of the time, you're not going to be seeing grass type decks. So that's fantastic. This deck just does everything well. It's got great synergy. All the cards play off each other. The mons work. There's not really much I would really take out of this deck in terms of Pokemon. The energy acceleration's perfectly great. As I said, this deck is super aggressive. If you go first and you get a really decent hand, you can swing quite happily for 120 on the 2nd turn. If your opponent plays badly, you can play into Thaw if you're going first. If you're going 2nd, you can start with Groudon, and turn 2 swing for 130. No one is going to be happy seeing you swing for 130 on turn 2. This deck is terrifyingly aggressive, and you must use that aggression. This deck is amazing. It's got fantastic comeback mechanics in terms of Garchomp. Garchomp's able to deal more damage if you're behind on prize cards, which makes it such a great card. Do not neglect it. It is amazing. I love it. And this deck is, I think, one of the only decks, if not the only deck, in theme, that has bench protection. If you're able to get Mew down, you stop direct damage to your bench. Now, one key note with that, damage counters, like Mew puts on, still hit your bench. But direct damage from Inteleon doesn't. This deck is amazing. Now, it does kind of require you to have damage on your bench, but I mean, it's really easy to switch out. And you can even put damage there yourself if your opponent's not attacking you. So, 100%, it's awesome. The deck is a bit weak to gusting when your opponent forcibly makes you switch. But the amount of times that happens, it's really low. So you don't have to worry about it too much. Overall, this deck is terrifyingly good. It's still great. And quite frankly, if you're looking for a fighting type deck, this is the deck to go to. It trumps the ones that came after it quite easily. So once again, this is a deck I really do recommend. It's sad to see it down in 5th place because it's a really good deck and I really enjoy playing it. Alright, that's our 5th spot done. Let's move over to number 4. Number 4 is Stormcaller. Now, this is a deck I hadn't played too much a couple months ago. Recently, this deck is doing really well. Because of the number of fire type decks, there's more water type decks. When there's more water type decks, Stormcaller has a lot of fun. Stormcaller is great at shutting down people because it's able to paralyze your opponents. There are not many ways around paralysis in theme. Most decks only run 2 switches. So 9 out of 10 times if you get paralyzed, you're not gonna have a way out of it. So if you do have a way to get out of paralysis, try not to waste it against Stormcaller. Because you're gonna need it, and you're gonna want it. Overall, this deck draws quite well. It's got some decent draws going. One thing that really goes with this deck is the fact that it hits the bench really well. It's great at bench sniping, and it's a lot of fun hitting your opponent's bench as well. Now, it only deals 50 damage to each of the people on the bench, so 50 is not that much. Quite frankly, it's enough. And if the active Pokemon is paralyzed, you're just getting free attacks off. So it's really great. It's got low energy costs. You generally only need 2 energies in your Pokemon. With that, you're dealing about 120 damage. So you don't need to worry too much about your energy game, and it's got mechanics to keep your energy flowing as well. As I said with Paralysis, this is the best deck in theme for status effects. I don't know why it says standard there. That's supposed to say theme. I do apologize. It's the best status effect deck in theme, not standard. That's really weird. I thought I fixed that. Sorry. However, this deck is energy reliant. It does rely on you having energies in your hand to get the paralysis off. Now, there's a lot of ways to make that happen, so it's not a terrible problem. But it is something to keep in mind when playing the deck, is that you need to make sure that you've got those energies in your hand. This deck does rely on getting Ampharos out. If your Ampharoses are prized, this can be really difficult. And because that this deck does tend to play a little bit slower, so it takes a little bit longer to come online, but once it comes online, it's really great, and it's a lot of fun. A lot of people recommend this deck, and I'm seeing this deck a lot when I play in theme. With mixed results, I win some, I lose some. It works really well, and the fact that it paralyzes you is incredibly frustrating. So, let's move on to the top 3. This was tough. Down in 3rd place, I put Relentless Flame. Now, I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me here. Relentless Flame is very good. It has great fetch with Nidoqueen. It has huge heavy hitters with Nidoqueen and Charizard. And once set up, this deck is very difficult to beat. However, you have to set it up. This deck is so swingy. I don't actually like going for win streaks with this deck. Because when it works, don't get me wrong. If you get like turn 3 Nidoqueen Charizard, it's game. 9 times out of the time, it's game. But if you don't get that setup, like if you just don't draw into Nidoqueen by like turn 6 and you don't have that Charizard out, the deck falls apart. Now, it stores well with Rapidash. But as I said, super swingy. So be careful with this deck. It hits like a truck and it's relatively easy to play. But you need to be very careful with making sure you get your setup going. You want to get the Nidoqueen online ASAP. Nidoqueen is the queen of this deck. Make sure it's operating perfectly. This deck relies on evolving Pokemon. It's the whole mechanic of this deck. It's a really cool mechanic. But you got to get those evolutions out. So be careful that you playing those basics on your bench to turn before you need them. And it's really luck reliant. Like I said, with it being so swingy, you're going to win some games on like turn 3, turn 4. It's super easy. You're going to have a lot of games where you just don't get online soon enough, and then it just falls apart. That is the reason I put it down to 3. Yeah, it's really difficult. It's one of the facts that like the deck works really well. It does. It works fantastically. But you kind of got to get it there. And because it's not consistent, I put it down a peg. And that takes us to our second spot. And our second spot for this month is the Charizard deck, the Charizard Leon deck. This deck has been performing very well for me. I ran 3 events literally just prior to making this video, and I won 2 of them. This deck works well. This deck works really well. It hits like a truck with Charizard. It's got Leon, which means that just by playing that support, you're dealing 30 more damage. So you're able to get some really key knockouts, and you're able to play around your opponent with that. That extra 30 damage can really make the difference, and it can mess with your opponents. Use it wisely. This deck swaps incredibly well with Yanmega. Yanmega has a 0 retreat cost. If your Pokemon gets knocked out, put Yanmega forward, because you can just retreat Yanmega for free. It is crazy good. I love it. Charizard might be the mascot for this deck, but Yanmega is honestly the glue that holds this deck together. Such a great supporter card. And it can deal up to 130 damage, which is not bad, because it goes up to 160 when playing the support to Leon. So you're able to knock out pretty much everyone with it, other than Charizard itself and a few other key Pokemon. But for the most part, with a 4 energy Yanmega, you're going to get some KOs. This deck draws incredibly well. You have to be so careful you don't draw out your deck with this, because there's a really good chance you will. Keep an eye on how many cards you have left in your deck, because you don't want to accidentally draw yourself out, because it draws that well. The thing I like about this deck is it's reliable. You know what you're getting into, and the deck tends to function well. It works the way it's supposed to work, and you're able to get your cards out relatively easily. Now, the only problem with this deck, well, the biggest problem with this deck, is the energy costs. This deck relies on Bede so much. Don't underestimate Bede. You need to get as many energies out as possible, because you got a high energy cost for your attacks. Like I said, you got 4 on Yanmega and 2 on Charizard, and the only way to accelerate is with Bede. So make sure you play the energy game, and make sure you stay ahead in energies, because you will need them. As I said, this deck does rely a lot on Yanmega and on Charizard, so you really want to get those evolutions out. If you don't get like an early Sudowoodo, this deck can be slow. Really prioritize your draws. You want to get your stuff going as soon as possible. You want a really, really fat hand. The more cards you have in your hand as possible, the better. You want card advantage with this deck. You get it running, this deck deals with pretty much every other deck. But you got to get it running, and you got to be careful getting it running. It does so well because it's very reliable, and it hits like a truck. But play your energies really careful with this deck, because if you fall behind with energies, it's very difficult to come back. So that leaves our number 1 spot at, surprise, surprise, Soaring Storm. I really don't know what else I have to say about this deck. It is just amazing. It just has the tools to deal with like every deck out there. This is my favorite theme deck for climbing the ladder and for racking up trainer tokens. It's just so good. It's reliable. It draws well. It's got good supporters. It hits like a truck. It's got good synergy. Most of your Pokemon are pretty decent. Like, they all serve a purpose in the deck. There's no fillers. This deck is just made really well. Like, as long as you're playing well and you get even average draws, this deck will do well. It's just how amazing this deck is. If you need a Pokemon, you don't have any theme decks, pick up Soaring Storm. You can't go wrong with it. You're gonna get your trainer tokens back in no time with this deck. Yeah, I really don't know what else to say about this deck. We've seen it so many times. I promise you've gone up against it in the theme ladder. It is so good. So yeah, let me know in the comments down below if you agree with my top 10. I know my top 5 is controversial, and I know a lot of people are not going to disagree with me. And I think a lot of it really does come down to personal preference. The top 5 decks at the moment are really good, and you got a lot of options in terms of what playstyle suits you better. For me, I generally run the new Leon deck with Charizard. I just really enjoyed it. Mechanically, it works for me. I like the deck. Previously, I've had a month where I basically just played Soaring Storm. I kind of shift around, and because of that, my opinion has changed. So I'm definitely keen to hear what everyone says. I love reading the comments, especially for videos like this. I love to know what everyone thinks. So, thanks so much for watching, everyone. I hope this video helped. I hope it helped you pick up some new theme decks if you're new to the game. If you're new, definitely jump on the Discord. The link will be in the description down below. Great advice there, great community. And if you're ever looking for advice, it's the place to go. As always, thank you so much for watching, everyone. Please do consider giving a like and leaving a subscribe as well. It really helps me out, it helps grow, and helps more people see these videos. Cheers, everyone. Enjoy.